Chicago mayor's attempt to hide illegal aliens before the DNC convention didn't go well. Old Mayor Johnson tried to do the same thing that California did. That when they had Xi Jinping come to town, you know that Gruesome Newsom went in and tried to clean up San Francisco, and the people was like, "Wait a minute, you could have been did this. You wait until now to try to try to clean up San Francisco." But it's a crap hole again. But Chicago mayor tried to do the exact same thing, and people called him out on it. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things I can't talk about here. All right, let's talk about this news. Now, this comes from PJ Media, from Rick Moran, and he writes that the city of Chicago once had a mayor who could move mountains with just a whisper. Richard J. Daley was a fearsome presence at City Hall, and he was able to get what he wanted through the sheer force of his personality and some real leg breakers from the outfit. Those days are long gone. The political organization that Daley built is less than a shadow of its former self. Efforts to revitalize the machine have ultimately failed, largely because the city has become more diverse. The Hispanic wards and black wards vie for power and influence, too busy fighting among themselves to unite and take the city. And that's by design. They want us bickering with each other. They want to divide us. That's why they always talking about this inclusive stuff and all this other stuff, instead of just saying, hey, we're all Americans. We all want the best for our country. They want to go in and divide because we won't team up and go against the powers that be. That's how they keep their power. But into that power vacuum rode the Chicago Teachers Union, now the most powerful political presence in the city. In 2023, they elected their very own mayor. Brandon Johnson is an idiot, but he's the teachers union's idiot, and they rarely allow him to forget that. So he's doing the bidding of the union, of the teachers union. That's why, but even though the people can't stand Johnson, you can see from the meetings, the sessions they have, they go in on him. But time and again, Johnson has proved to be not only incapable, but horribly out of his depth. His major accomplishment so far has been to strong arm his allies on the city council to pass a ceasefire resolution on Gaza. Nothing to do with Chicago, really. Nothing to do with Chicago, but he's quick to do that. He has alienated the black community by pouring tens of millions of dollars into services for illegal aliens. He went to war with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, accusing him of abandoning Chicago by refusing to fund migrant shelters. And when Pritzker offered to fund a shelter, Johnson picked a location on a toxic waste dump. You can't make this stuff up. This is what happens when you put incompetence in charge. When you put an incompetent person in charge. But he has blamed Washington, D.C., Springfield, Cook County, Republicans, and the people of Chicago for his incompetent mismanagement of the crisis. He's blaming everyone except for himself, of course. Here's a prime example. Johnson got in his head that he should move the migrants living in shelters in and around the loop out of the way so convention goers wouldn't see them. He tried to hide them, of course. He decided to move them a few blocks from Guaranteed Rate Field, home of the White Sox on the south side, and he planned to use an empty building to house most of them. Chicago Tribune reported, Mayor Brandon Johnson announced Monday he is pulling his proposal to move migrants from downtown to a new shelter in Southside 11 Ward before the Democratic National Convention in the face of stiff opposition from the local aldermen and the building's owners, the latest setback in his administration's attempt to house asylum seekers. The change came after the owners of the property said Johnson never informed them of his plans to use the building at 3951 South Canal Street for a shelter. When the Tribune asked the city about the apparent disconnect, the Department of Family and Support Service released a Monday statement saying that the city is, quote, no longer considering doing so. They said, quote, we were surprised to hear news reports of the city's plan to possibly use our property as a migrant shelter. Bajaj Medical, the pharmaceutical company that owns the building in the new city neighborhood, said in a Sunday statement. So they didn't even know. So how you say you're going to use the building when you didn't even talk to the owner of the building? Again, incompetence on top of incompetence. And they're just running Chicago into the ground. But, quote, Bajaj Medical has not been contacted by city officials and has not approved and does not intend to approve any public use of this property. The Johnson flunkies said that they had spoken with Bajaj Medical property broker. It still came as a surprise to the owner that his building was even being considered to house migrants. Alderman Nicole Lee from the 11th Ward told the Tribune earlier that the pretty shocking communication breakdown is indicative of the mayor's incompetence during the migrant crisis. It's just his incompetence in general. Y'all put a man in charge that never really ran anything. What has he accomplished? Has he accomplished anything in his life other than running Chicago into the ground? But, quote, what's going on that nobody was in touch with the owners? Lee asked. This shines a big light and calls into question how this is being managed and the people that we have working for the city. That just is mind-blowing to me. Us too, Alderman. Trying to get illegal aliens out of the shelters had been a particularly tortured process. One 30-day deadline turned into another and then another as Johnson couldn't bring himself to issue the order to displace dozens of people. I'm sure the Biden administration is beginning to fret about the incompetent boob running Chicago. When the stuff hits the fan and the protests begin, who will Johnson blame for the cluster FARC? FARC, F-A-R-K. He's still going to continue to blame everyone else. He's blaming everyone else except for his incompetence. And that's indicative of the whole Democratic Party. They are destroying our major cities. They are destroying our country and refuse to take any accountability for it and pretending like everything is great. But let me know what you think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.